Hey there, fellow Patriots. Welcome back to Patriots of the American Republic. I think on this channel, I've done a pretty good job at showing the hypocrisy and double standards of the left. Just to recap, we've shown footage of prominent Democrats saying that they were against illegal immigration and how they've switched now to kind of being like open borders, right? For everything, for everyone. We showed video clips of Bill Clinton, Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton. Heck, we even showed clips from Barack Obama himself. And they all at one point talked about how bad illegal immigration was and how it hurt the process of legal immigration, right?
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. The public service they use impose burdens on our taxpayers. That's why our administration has moved aggressively to secure our borders more, by hiring a record number of new border guards, by deporting twice as many criminal aliens as ever before, by cracking down on illegal hiring, by barring welfare benefits to illegal aliens. In the budget I will present to you, we will try to do more to speed the deportation of illegal aliens who are arrested for crimes, to better identify illegal aliens in the workplace, as recommended by the commission headed by former Congresswoman Barbara Jordan.
And so it wasn't until Donald Trump came onto the scene that all of a sudden, being protective of the borders was deemed racist, right? Donald Trump comes on the scene, says what needs to be said regarding our borders and you know, the invasion that was taking place, and suddenly the narrative shifted from an immigration standpoint to a narrative about race, causing the left to essentially go insane, right? So in their eyes, President Trump was deemed Adolf Hitler, you know, from the moment that he announced he was running as a Republican candidate. And essentially anyone who supported him would be deemed the same, right? Now, this narrative has made the left, I guess, lose their collective senses. They've lost their ability to think rationally and support stupid policies such as the defund the police movement that we covered and, you know, makes no sense whatsoever. So in this particular episode, we're just going to give you some more examples of how the left is just, they're insane at this point. There's really no denying it. There's no covering it. There's no sugarcoating it. They're just absolutely insane. All of their ideas are not sound. They're not logical. And we're just going to give you some additional material just to solidify everything, right? So the first example that I want to go over is how the left supports illegal immigration. And it's absolutely mind-boggling. They find every excuse not to just defend the person who's coming here looking for a better life, but they also support criminals, gang members, and heck, even terrorists. We previously covered an alleged gang member and human trafficker named Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was ordered to be deported a number of years ago. Somehow he's managed to defy the odds, and he's still currently in the U.S., apparently making TikTok videos. Each day this individual stays here is a mockery to our immigration system. It's an insult towards legal immigrants, and additionally, an additional layer of insult to all of us, the U.S. taxpayers, who are unwillingly supporting all of this stupidity. Let's check in for a more recent update on this individual. This was just from like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
We're here in Greenbelt, Maryland at the federal court building where Abrego Garcia just had a status hearing. It went on for about an hour, and the judge spent most of her time actually questioning the performance of the federal government in its pursuit of Mr. Garcia for the last several months. And the takeaway right now is he will be home for Christmas and probably for New Year because she extended a temporary restraining order that had been put in place on December the 11th, which she asked the government once again, would you give me the theory behind which you want to detain him, or do you have a removal order for him? And the government's lawyer here couldn't really explain exactly what they're going to do with him going forward. And she just said she's not buying the just trust me orders anymore until they bring back some case filings that show specifically how she's supposed to rule on this, because right now she doesn't have the data or any kind of case basis to rule based on the government's last filing. Often in court cases, judges tend to kind of keep themselves and keep their personalities close to the vest. But Judge Sinis, in this case, let that frustration be known using words like, I'm growing impatient.
As taxpayers, we're on the bill for the Border Patrol, the facilities required, transportation, judges, defense attorneys, food, medical, housing, schooling, whatever. These people are getting tons of benefits while the rest of the country struggles financially on a regular basis. And this needs to stop. The left's lunacy and hatred towards President Trump has caused these people to fight tooth and nail for this type of an individual to be released, despite being here illegally, despite the video evidence of alleged human trafficking, despite police records of domestic abuse towards his wife. I mean, you would think that the left would be fighting for, at the very least, an upstanding person, right? Someone who's worth fighting for. But no, that's not what happens. They actually found someone who represents, one of the worst possible cases ever. And I think they owned it because they had to get stuck with it. Remember, they painted this guy as nothing more than a Maryland man. And when all of these facts started coming out, well, they couldn't backtrack. It was really hard for them, right? So they had to keep playing along with him. But how frustrating is that this individual is still here on U.S. soil and has not been sent back. I don't care if it's El Salvador. I don't care if it's to one of the countries in Africa. I don't care where he goes. He does not need to be here. And he doesn't need to be in a place where he's going to terrorize other regular people either, right? Now, this type of insanity has brought us to a very frustrating situation taking place in Minnesota, where a group of Somali people have been caught defrauding the American people by receiving federal funding in the tune of millions while running a scam daycare center. This story was exposed by a fellow patriotic American named Nick Shirley. Let's take a look at some of the videos that we have here regarding this situation.
Well, now investigators are tracking the web of fraud to other Minnesota Democrats, such as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Many of the suspects linked to the scheme live in her district, including a restaurant owner who hosted events for her. He has since been convicted of stealing $12 million in COVID funds.
Get over here, man. Get out. Move. Get out. Get the here. Resist. You cannot come in here. Resist. We don't care. We don't know where it is. Get out. That's not your job. You don't know that. Get out. Move. He's recording. Get out of here. This is a lie. I don't care. Who do you work for? Who do you work for? No, who do you work for? Surely. I don't care about this guy.
In reports like this one.
What I uncovered the other day in one of our spending bills making its way through Congress was a $1 million earmark from Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, which was an earmark that was supposedly going to a substance abuse clinic, which actually happened to be housed in a restaurant and run by 3 individuals that share the same residential address, according to their IRS paperwork. Tons of red flags. So this is what we saw with the fraud involving the daycare centers. Now we see other earmarks coming directly from members of Congress, where it seems fraud is being perpetrated as well.
So instead of the left being outraged that they're being robbed, they're trying to vilify this guy, Nick Shirley, and throw smokescreen interference about racism and defending the indefensible, in my opinion, right? This is why I say they're insane. We've never been okay with fraud. Since when has it been acceptable to like steal from somebody else? It just doesn't logically make sense. But again, they don't think logically. Their logically goes only so far because these people, it falls short, right? They think that they're stealing. Oh, well, they're just stealing from the government. But they're not realizing that we're the ones who fund the government. It's our tax dollars that fund the government. So when millions are stolen in these types of examples, right, it's considered a loss to the government. But then the government will continue to fund these types of programs and more programs. And when they refund the programs or add on more programs, that's when they demand more taxes from us. So you got to understand that when you steal from the government, you're stealing from the people. I mean, it's absurd. But again, the leftist doesn't think that. Now, you would think that this individual, Nick Shirley, would be getting praise for his, journalistic uncoverings and his efforts and so on and so forth. But that's not what's happening. He's actually being threatened big time for doing what he did. Let's take a look.
So can you imagine how mad they are now? Like, that's why right now there's people are so upset. Like, there's bounties on me here in Minnesota because people are so upset as far as the fraud that's being exposed, because they know their time's up and they know everyone's just sick and tired of this happening inside their own state and across America. I can't reveal too much just because I don't want to reveal. But lots of messages, death threats, obviously, on social media. And then it's just not the most safe thing for me to be moving around freely right now.
Unfortunately, this is just one big and recent example of fraud that people are getting caught in, but there are far, far more. I mean, I have a family member that worked in the federal prison down in Miami, and the level of medical fraud, Social Security fraud, various different types of frauds committed by not just U.S. citizens, but foreigners is really extensive. For example, legal immigrants with a refugee status from Cuba. They receive some type of benefit, U.S. government benefit, and then they fly back to Cuba on a regular basis. Again, this is according to my family member. Here's the question. Why would someone who's fleeing a communistic country who fears for their lives because that's the refugee status be returning to that very same country? I think your refugee status should be revoked at that point. If you're claiming that you're fearful of your life from this particular government of that country, but yet you constantly go back there, something ain't right. But when it comes to the situation with Somalians, in this particular example, it's only natural that the left tries to make this not about legality, but about race. Let's take a look.
The question is, why is this a priority in a different kind of way? The politicization of the DOJ and the FBI is undeniable. So whether they are reliable narrators is the big question. And this is what happens when you weaponize and politicize federal agencies that are not meant to be, politicized. And I think the American people are right to ask the question, well, can we trust you? And that's a sad thing to say as an American. Let's recall, too, that there's also other scandals in other states. For example, the Mississippi welfare scandal. And this is not unique to politics. Americans know that. But, of course, the other factor here is that because it looks like the Somali population in Minnesota, the Somali immigrant population may have been involved in some way, those people are being scapegoated, and that community is being scapegoated in a way that certainly serves the far right. And so that's also something to keep an eye on, and that's inappropriate.
Now, my wife and I just had an incident last year of a lady from Cuban background doing insurance claims, ended up stealing tens of thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands from regular folks. The lady had no license to be an insurance claim adjuster, ran an insurance claim business for years, while taking people's money. Now, the amount taken from us was a good chunk. It was well over $10,000, and thankfully my wife was able to recuperate it. My wife reported her. She was arrested, and like I said, my wife was able to recuperate all of the money that was taken from her. I can't speak for the other people involved because we don't know. We do know that there are other people involved based on the details of what happened and what came out of it. But we were fortunate. How many people are not fortunate? How many people have that happen to and they don't recuperate any money? So we know this lady had other victims, like I said. We just didn't know the extent of this particular individual's fraud. Now, let me ask you folks, is this an example of racism? No, obviously not, because both this individual and my wife are both Hispanics. So what is this really about? It's really about an illegal activity, which is the same situation with the case, with the Somali case, right? So let's put aside the falsehoods and let's stick to the facts and what this is about. This is about a group of people, and I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's Somali, I don't care if it's Cubans, I don't care if it's white Americans, I don't care who it is. If you're doing fraud, you need to be arrested. And it needs to stop. Right? But again, that's not the picture that the left wants to paint. Because as expected, they're going to gaslight everybody and say, oh, that this isn't really about race, even though they're trying to make it about race. So you've got one side that says, yeah, this is racial. And then you've got them like, no, this isn't racial at all. Nobody ever said this was about race. But again, the internet's forever and videos are out there. Let's take a look.
It's Democrats who have put Somali diaspora in Minneapolis at the center of their party and their state's politics. It's a small portion of the population. There is a bunch of fraud that goes on. And even Tim Walz has claimed that any investigation of this fraud is akin to white supremacy.
No,
which is
he hasn't. No, he has not claimed that. He has not said that.
He has said that.
He has not said that.
So there you have it. Scott Jennings calling it like it is and saying, hey, listen, this is a fraud that's going on. And Tim Walz is coming in trying to, again, gaslight or smokescreen and say, listen, if you investigate this, then you're a racist. And then you've got Abby along with the others at CNN saying, no, he never said that. He never said that it was white supremacy like Scott Jennings pointed out. But what's the reality? Who's telling the truth here? Is it CNN or is it Scott Jennings?
This is what happens when they target communities for their own benefit. This is what happens when they scapegoat. And this is what happens when they no longer hide the idea of white supremacy.
These people in the media, specifically the leftist mainstream media, they're disgusting, right? They instead of reporting the facts, they're reporting as bias, right? They always lean towards the left. They always lean towards Democrat. They try and cover up everything and anything that has to do with the Democratic agenda. And they are not journalists. They are, by definition, propagandists if they're not delivering the complete and accurate news. If they're only favoring one side, it's propaganda. Let's just be real. Let's call a spade let's call a spade a spade. Now, in my last two videos, we covered the mounting tension between the U.S. and Venezuela and the inevitable outcome that I expressed during those videos, right? From there, we covered the actual capture of the dictator, Nicolas Maduro, and the expected excuses coming from the left. Now, since President Trump's decisive win last year, the left has organized several No Kings protests in a show of defiance towards the executive orders and policies that President Trump is putting in place. I remember going to the beach a couple of times and just driving past a number of them here in the Tampa Bay area, actually over by the Clearwater. Aside from the stupidity of these protests, these very same morons have taken to the streets in order to protest the release of an actual dictator. Let's take a look, and you can't make this up.
Just less than a minute ago, this group came back out here at the Fountain to Waterfront Park. They just went on a march and have been out here for several hours. Now, this protest was organized and dozens of San Diegans came out here in less than 24 hours notice after finding out about the U.S. strike on Venezuela and the capture of their president. But I do want to show you some video from the protest earlier when we first arrived around 3 p.m. Plans were canceled, new signs were made, and this event was put together right after organizers heard the news. They're calling it an emergency protest, saying action needs to be taken now before more violence ensues. We spoke to some organizers and attendees who say it's important to act quickly.
Venezuela! Hands off Venezuela! Hands off Venezuela! No war with Venezuela! No war with Venezuela!
Here's what's interesting about this scenario. As mentioned, within less than 24 hours, lots of these protesters had professionally made signs for their protest. Now, if you go to a place like Kinko's, these banners aren't cheap, so I find it fascinating how all these folks have the means and the speed to acquire these huge professionally made signs. Now, in some cases, these could be signs from a prior protest, but there were certain signs that were very specific to the Venezuelan and Maduro issue. So it seems kind of suspect, if you know what I'm getting at. I don't believe that these protests are they're 100% organic. I believe many of them are organized, and a number of them are routinely paid to be there. And so once you start to get a couple, right? Once you get like a good circle, then you've got all these other people that just join in because they want to join in. But I think at the core, there's something fishy going on there, and it's not natural, in my opinion. It's not organic. Now, never in my wildest dreams would I have ever imagined the absolute absurdity of people protesting the release of an actual dictator here in the U.S. I mean, this is the type of scenario that we used to see like in parody videos, like in Dumb and Dumber, Spaceballs, Not Another Teen Movie, and any other dumb comedic film that we grew up in. And yet, here we have actual real-life idiotic events taking place from the left. Now, the sad part is they're so blinded by their hatred of President Trump, they don't see their own stupidity or hypocrisy. It's literally everything and anything just to go against President Trump, even if it means rooting and cheering for a dictator. Let's take a look.
Would you trade Trump for Maduro?
Yeah, I mean, I think Maduro was democratically elected. Probably, yeah.
More than likely, yes.
If there's a Nicolas Maduro out here who's going to bring us to revolution, I will support that movement.
Nicolas Maduro could come and be our president? Yeah. Oh, any day. All the check marks are there. He's not white, okay? He's a minority, okay? He looks a little too much like Saddam Hussein, though.
You think that Venezuela would be better off if we just left, Maduro in charge?
100%.
I have no words for these people as logic is. It's clearly not there. It's right out the window. I mean, if Maduro was a good president, or a good anything, why would there be over 10 million people that both legally and illegally left his country? Right? And we're talking about like in a mass exodus. Remember the caravans that were coming over, right? A lot of those were from Venezuela, right? There's millions of people scattered across the globe, and it's not because Nicolas Maduro was a good anything, right? But this clip right here shows how uneducated these people are, because Nicolas Maduro was not originally elected. He was placed there and selected by Hugo Chavez. So again, their stupidity is just beyond comprehension, because everything that they say doesn't make sense. Now, since the Michael Brown killing back in, like 2014 or something like that, there's been a slow and increased decline of respect towards law enforcement. To me, it's clear that Obama emboldened the left to stand up against law enforcement, which is why we've seen an increase of attacks on our guys and gals in blue, right? We've seen examples of police officers being executed while sitting in their squad car. We saw sniper attacks in Dallas from rooftops down onto police. And then obviously we talked about the destructive movement of the defund the police protest that frankly engulfed a lot of cities with crime, destruction, and lives were lost, right? And then last year we saw, a number of cities that were rioted against because of the deportations. Federal ICE agents, right, were increasing their presence and following through with what the people voted for, and that was to capture, detain, and remove illegal aliens from our country, people who are here illegally and shouldn't be here. And we saw this display of not only did we see, a display of hatred towards this country, but we saw a display of hatred and aggression towards law enforcement. And to be quite frank, it's very, very concerning. Now, in several recent events, we are once again seeing an increase in defiance towards law enforcement. And this is really dangerous for everybody. Not only is it dangerous for obviously the people that are out there, but it's also dangerous for law enforcement, because when you think about everything that law enforcement has to go through, the dangers that they see, they're not going to hesitate. They're going to protect their lives. And so if you put them in danger, training's going to kick in and they're going to react, the way it's supposed to. Let's just take a look at some of the defiance that's going on right now throughout our country.
Step back. Hit a
We're going to back up. Our safety and your safety. You can back up. Back up. Stay there. There you go. Back up. Back up. Hey, Call of Duty there. You're like a tough guy. Baseball ass guy. One last time. You got the right. You got the right. Get to the face. You got the right. You're fine. Back up. Back up. Back up. One more. You go back there, and then I'll put you under arrest. One more. You get back there one more time. Back up. Back up. I got the way up. Gotta make sure. Give him your hand. Give him your hand. Give him your hand.
So as you can see in these videos, there are several examples of people disobeying orders from law enforcement, and in some cases they end up eating pavement. Listen, there's an obvious difference between protesting and rioting, but there's also a difference between being respectful and being disrespectful. Law officers are going to talk to you and they're going to discuss things. If there's a difference of view, they have no problem. They'll engage with you. They'll get aggressive if you get stupid and aggressive. I mean, you're literally asking for it when you don't follow their requests, their demands, their orders, whatever the case may be, as is in the example that we're about to go through with this individual named Renee Good. Renee Good was shot by ICE agents after refusing to exit her vehicle as she was instructed to by ICE agents. She then proceeds to apparently step on the gas, accelerates the car as her wife was screaming at her to drive, and then she hits an officer, hits him pretty good, and the officer opens fire and fatally shoots her. Let's take a look at the video.
It's okay, we don't change our plates every morning, just so you know. It'll be the same plate when you come talk to us later. That's fine. U.S. citizen, former. You want to come at us? You want to come at us? I say go get yourself some lunch, big boy. Go ahead.
Out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Whoa!
It's way.
Once again, this is causing like mass controversy around the country. Usually, when it's a white person, the left doesn't really react much, but due to the fact that this is ICE, they know they can play off of this narrative here, right? They can use the Gestapo type of narrative. Trump's being a thug, a bully, right? Oh, look, he's the dictator, and his law enforcement are carrying out his tyrannical policies, right? It's really obvious, but how can we tell that it's obvious? How can we tell? Because they are absolutely silent when an illegal immigrant kills a U.S. citizen of any ethnicity. Just a few months ago, it was reported that a young girl by the name of Dakara Thompson was killed and brutalized by an illegal alien. If this had been a white person who had killed this young girl, this would have been all over the news, igniting calls of racism. But because this particular story doesn't follow the desired script, the story goes under the rug. Let's take a listen.
Fox 5 exclusive. The neighbor of the suspect accused of killing 19-year-old Dakara Thompson is speaking out this morning. We're talking about Cody Parson here, who says that he witnessed suspicious behavior of the 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez Mendez following Dakara's disappearance.
Cody tells Fox 5 he lives next door to the alleged illegal immigrant who police say killed Dakara Thompson inside of his bedroom in a Bowie, Maryland home. Cody says early in the morning on August 23rd, he stepped outside of his home and saw something burning in the suspect's backyard. He says he still can't believe this happened.
I'm terrified. This could happen next door to my house, in my neighborhood. Like, my wife sits regularly in between the two houses and smokes late at night. This girl deserves justice. Whatever justice can be given in this world, she deserves it. My heart goes out to her family. I can't even imagine. I have a daughter myself, and I can't even imagine the grief that they're going through right now.
Police say they found bloodstains, women's lingerie, hair from a wig consistent with one Dakara Thompson wore, and a fingernail that matches one missing from Thompson's hand. An autopsy reveals she had skull and facial fractures.
Yeah, this is just really sad. ICE officials tell us that Hernandez Mendez is in the country illegally. U.S. Park Police arrested him in April on a DUI, but for some reason, he was released. Jacqueline?
How many of you guys knew about that story before watching this? Because I know I didn't know about this up until like 2 days ago. And this happened 4 or 5 months ago. It's a tragic event, but not surprisingly, no protests from BLM. No marches from the left, no candlelight vigilance, nothing but silence, which to me is another indicator that these protests are all manufactured. They're not organic. Because if your core belief was legitimate, this would be one of those moments, and it's not. You know, when I look at all these examples, it's sad that no matter how good something can be for our country, just because it's a person or a political party, we automatically have to oppose it. That doesn't seem logical at all. During Obama's first term, even though I didn't like a lot of his policies, but I was in full support of these deportation efforts during his first term. His second term went, forget it. He went open borders. But during his first term, I mean, he deported what? Between 3 to 5 million illegal aliens? And nobody said a peep. How far have we gone as a society that we've lost sight of what's right, of what's wrong, and common sense simply because we dislike someone? It's amazing. And there's lots of memes regarding President Trump where President Trump cures cancer, and you see people protesting, curing cancer's racist, and so on and so forth. There's another meme that says, oxygen, where Trump is saying oxygen is good for you, and then you've got a leftist putting a bag or saying, I'm not going to breathe. We're at that stage. That's not a meme anymore, because you have literally people protesting to free a dictator. Now, what's really interesting about those specific protests, and this is why, again, I don't think they were organic, a lot of those people were not of Venezuelan background. If you looked at the video specifically from the New York Times, none of those people right there looked Hispanic. Or, I'm sorry, the New York Post. None of those people looked Hispanic. I saw some whites. I saw some Asians. One guy, I don't know, he looked Pakistani or Indian or something like that, right? When you actually ask a Venezuelan, though, regarding that in Venezuela, unless they're a communist socialist, they're happy. Even the leftists are happy, like the leftist Venezuelans, because the politics in Venezuela are different than the politics here, right? They're not exactly the same. So even leftist Venezuelans are celebrating what just happened, what Trump did. But you've got these organized protests suggesting otherwise. Listen, when it comes to this entire situation, I have a friend of mine. His name's Dennis. Shout out to Dennis. He posted this, and I want to read it to you in its entirety, because I do think it hits right on the money. It's disheartening to witness a culture where defiance against the law has become not only a trend, but something that's viewed as cool. We see people stealing from the malls openly, mocking authority, and creating viral content around resisting lawful interactions, especially when getting pulled over by police. It's alarming how disobedience is now celebrated, and this growing fad is wearing down those of us who still value law and order. At the root of this problem is something deeper. It's a growing lack of faith, morals, integrity, values, and foundational beliefs. When these pillars erode, respect for authority, for life, and for one another erodes with them. A society without moral anchors inevitably drifts towards chaos. What's even more troubling is that the narrative that consistently shifts blame away from those who instigate disorder. When a police officer feels threatened and reacts, often within the boundaries of the law and their training, the focus immediately turns to the officer's actions rather than the circumstances that led to that moment. I hate to see lives lost. That should never be minimized, but I'm equally exhausted by the repeated pattern of behavior that leads to these incidents. Conversations around these tragedies are not meant to glorify loss of life, but to express fatigue, and I hope for a future where compliance with the law enforcement is seen as a sign of strength and not weakness. While some may celebrate these events out of anger or rebellion, I believe what many are truly yearning for is a return to meaning, responsibility, and respect for law and the safety that it provides. This isn't about justifying tragedy, it's about recognizing a hard truth. Choices have consequences. And there's a verse here that I'm going to read. It's Romans 13:1. Let everyone be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. So this fits perfectly into this scenario, specifically with Renee Good, where I've seen a number of videos where people are justifying, questioning the actions of the authority. The root of this is that this person did not comply. If this person would have exited the vehicle as they were instructed, they could have avoided this entire scenario. And in addition, don't resist arrest. Don't flee. Don't attack or put an officer's life in jeopardy. You open yourself for bad consequences. So this isn't going to stop, but I just wanted to take a moment to point out the insanity and the continued insanity that the left continues to go down, right? And they continue to display. So guys, that's my video for today. Thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Take care. I will see you guys all in the next video. God bless you guys. God bless America. And be safe.